Hello YouTubers, subscribers, and friends. Welcome to my channel. Check out the moon. It's a full moon. That looks pretty cool. Always like looking at the moon. It's weird though to see a full moon in the daylight. Freaking 7 o'clock in the morning. Pretty cool though. Thought I'd do some filming here at the park today. Getting my exercise on. But it is chilly. Freaking 65 degrees. Even though the sun is out nice and shiny, it is cold. Getting colder every day. I'm going to have to start wearing sweatpants. I haven't filmed at the park in a while because there's nothing here to see except for butterflies. See a lot of butterflies in my house too. Every time I see butterflies, I think of my daughter, my oldest daughter. Yeah, that wind does not make the weather feel any warmer. I think everything has gone into hibernation because of the colder weather here in Arizona. Some of you people from the northeast and the east, well, it's not cold. Listen, when you're in Arizona and you're dealing with 115, 120 degree heat, whenever it drops below 70 degrees, we are freaking cold. Alright, I am cold. I got my jacket on and I'm cold. Got shorts on, but I should have put sweatpants on. I don't know why I didn't. My wife had a yard sale this weekend, and Sunday actually, and she made $127.50 in 4 hours, which I think is crazy because it's all a bunch of, I would say, junk that I got for free off of Craigslist. If you watch my this channel and you've seen some of the older videos, I used to go around and get free stuff off of Craigslist, and I would film it, show this is what I got here and this is what I got here, and I put them in my shed, stuff that people are just giving away for free, and then I put everything together on one day and we sell it in a yard sale. You know what they say, that one man's trash is another man's treasure? Well, big time treasure. That's a lot of money. So for a Sunday yard sale, and she didn't start it till late either. And I thought it was pretty cool because we always, every time we have a yard sale, we always break $100 easy. So I get people email me all the time or making comments on videos because I have diabetes, and people are always giving me ideas of what to try, what to eat, what to drink. And for the last, I say 4 days, I've been having 1 teaspoon of cinnamon on whatever I drink or eat. I would dump it and shake it up and drink it. And actually this morning I had toast with butter and cinnamon spread all over it. And I just burped and I still got the taste of cinnamon in my mouth. But I have noticed that I exercise regularly, but I've noticed that my sugar level is staying pretty much close to normal all the time since I've been eating this cinnamon. And this girl, I don't remember her name is, but she told me she had diabetes in her family, and they tried cinnamon, a teaspoon of cinnamon, well actually 3 grams, which measures out the teaspoon, half a teaspoon. Correct myself, half a teaspoon. And the wind is blowing like crazy, so I'm sorry for the camera's picking up the wind noise. And she said that their family members cured their diabetes just by eating 3 grams of cinnamon. I don't know how long you have to eat it, but I'm starting to believe cinnamon's doing something, because I tested it yesterday. My sugar was 106. Normal is 110, 106. I ate 2 bowls of cereal just to test if it's doing anything. And then 2 bowls of sugar should have spiked my blood sugar. 2 bowls of sugar, yeah, 2 bowls of cereal should have spiked my blood sugar. But after an hour, I tested my blood sugar just to see what it was, and it was 111. I was totally shocked because the reason I come and walk is because I like to eat cereal. When I would eat just 1 bowl of cereal, it would spike my blood sugar up to 120, 125. So I'd eat a bowl of cereal and then I'd come walk at the park a couple miles and then to burn it off. But I don't know. I'm going to continue eating the cinnamon, continue testing, see what happens. That girl just ran by me, scared the hell out of me because I just looked back and there was no one there. She come running by and she's like, "Good morning." Scared the crap out of me. She's a ninja runner. You can't even hear her running. Running, pushing a baby. I can barely just run, period. And she's running and pushing a baby stroller. Crazy. If you watch my videos on a regular basis, or maybe if you just once in a while watch my videos, my son Xavier, he's 13 years old. Now, when he was, well, let's start from the beginning. My son Xavier has flatlined twice in his lifetime. Once before he was even born, and the second one before he was, when he was 7 years old. He's 13 now. The first time, before he was born, my wife was in labor for a freaking long time. I don't know, 20 some hours. And her cervix wasn't opening up. And they were going to do a C-section on her. Because, I don't know, that's what they just said, because it was taking too long. And what happened is, and the truck's loud. Her cervix wasn't opening up fast enough for him to be born. So they were in there getting ready to get everything prepped, ready to do a C-section. And all of a sudden my wife's cervix opened up and the baby dropped. He dropped, and they said he hit his head on the pelvic bone, and then he flatlined, his heart stopped. They were all frantic. There was just a nurse and a doctor in there, and next thing I know there was people running in and out of the room. Everybody was all excited, rushing. They were pushing down my wife's stomach really, really hard, just, you know, and they were like, "Call out, call out, call out." They were calling out numbers. I don't know what was going on. So then, finally, they all calmed down, and I asked, what the hell's that about? And the lady's like, "Woo, that was a close one. He flatlined for 1 minute and 37 seconds. I said, "What do you mean he flatlined?" This before we even knew it was a boy. And then they got the salitons of whatever they used to pull the baby out, and they came out and he had this huge bruise on his forehead. And then they explained to me that his heart had stopped for 1 minute and 37 seconds. Oh, my battery's flashing. I gotta get my battery charger thing. Got my walk done. The second time, before the second time, my son has always been so artistic. He's always used to draw stuff all the time. And then the second time, my wife, he'd always had a hard time breathing when he's sleeping. We took him to the doctor, and the doctor said he needs to have his tonsils taken out. So we took him, had his tonsils taken out. Even though I didn't want to do it, my wife wanted to have it done. And then after he came back from the hospital having his tonsils taken out, we're at home, and he's always spitting up blood all the time, so we call the doctor. And the doctor said, "Oh, that's normal. Take a couple of days and it will stop, but you know, if anything happens, just bring him in." So I said, "Okay, sure, no problem." 2 days after being home from the hospital, I was in the living room, and I heard this noise in the back bathroom. It was like boom, like a huge sound, like something fell down. And I went back there. My son was on the floor, and there was blood everywhere, all over the floor, all over the sink. And I reached down to pick him up, and he was, eyes rolled in the back of his head. There was no movement. He wasn't responding to me. And blood everywhere. I had no idea what the heck was going on. So I picked him up and I carried him in the living room and I yelled at my wife, call 911. And she called 911, but the whole time I'm holding him in my arms, slapping him in his face, yelling at him, Xavier, 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 trying to get some kind of response out of him. And good thing the paramedics, the fire department, right around the corner from my house, showed up really, really fast. And I told them, they asked what happened. I said, I don't know, we took it, because by then I could see all the blood coming out of his mouth. I said, we had his tonsils out, and now there's blood everywhere. So they took him in the ambulance, and my wife went with him. They rushed him to the hospital. And I was just sitting on my floor, shocked, and my next door neighbor came over to see what was going on, because he saw the fire trucks and the ambulance and everything. And he saw me sitting on the floor, just covered in blood. And it's like, dude, what the hell happened to you? And I was pretty much in shock, because I had no idea what's going on. I mean, my son bleeding to death, blood. I mean, just imagine just puddles of blood everywhere, and no responses, and it was crazy. So I cleaned up as much as I could, grabbed my daughter. She's 10 at the time. Jumped in my truck and we ran to the hospital. So flash forward to the hospital. I don't know where in the hospital they had him. So I was running around the hospital with my daughter, and finally I found my wife, and the doctor is talking to my wife, who she had been bawling her eyes out, and telling us that we almost lost him, and he lost 2 pints of blood. But they got him back under control, and what happened was his tonsils, when they take him out, they didn't cauterize him well enough, and one of them busted open, and he almost bled to death. He lost 2 pints of blood. And but he's doing fine now. And the reason I tell you that story is because the things he said to me like a year later, the story he told me like a year later. Oh, now my portable battery charger's dying. I'll get to that story here in a little bit. So, a little over a year later, my son came up to me. Excuse me. We've never told him anything about this story. And I was on my computer one day, and he walked up to me and he said, Dad. And I said, yeah, what do you want, son? And he's like, why was Mama crying in the hospital? And I was like, what are you talking about? What hospital? He's like, when I died, why was Mama crying? I said, what do you mean when you died? He's like, remember when my tonsil was bleeding and I died in the hospital? And we've never told him the story, why he was in the hospital, what happened. And he came to me and wanted to talk to her. I said, what do you mean you died? He goes, yeah, I died. And then I could hear Mama crying. I said, what do you mean you could hear her? How could you hear her crying if you died? He said, when I died, I left my body, and I could see myself sitting on the table, and the doctors and nurses around me doing stuff, and then I heard Mama crying, and I walked through the wall. And I said, what do you mean you walked through the wall? He goes, yeah, because I couldn't see myself. All I could do was hear Mama crying. And I'm like, what else did you hear? What else did you see? He goes, I couldn't see anything. It was pitch black. It was dark. It was like somebody turned out the lights. And I could hear Mama's crying, so I just went towards her voice that she was crying. I said, well, how did you know it was Mama crying? He goes, I don't know. I knew, and I just went towards the sound of crying, and there was a wall, and I went through the wall, and it was really weird. I said, what? How did you go through the wall? And he's like, I could see me leaving the body, and I was like floating, and I could tell there was a wall there, and I went through it, and it was like sandpaper rubbing against me as I went through it. And then as I went through, I could see Mama sitting there on the chair crying, but you weren't there. I said, what do you mean I wasn't there? Where was I? He's like, I could see you on the other side of the hospital running down the hallway with my sister looking around, running, and I was wondering, why is Dad not with Mom? Why is she crying? And I said, oh, that's weird, son. What else did you see? What else did you hear? He's like, well, something pulled me back to my body, and I was floating above my body, and I was looking down, and the doctors, they had these metal round things. They were putting them on my chest, and my body would fly up into the air. And I said, well, what was it? He goes, I don't know, but the doctors kept saying, clear, clear. And then my body would pop up into the air, and he goes, and then I could taste weird stuff. I said, what do you mean you could taste weird stuff? He's like, they were giving me blood, and I could taste it as it was going in my body. And I said, that's strange, son. I said, you didn't see no white light or anything? He's like, no, but every time they would shock my body, the doctors would say clear, they would shock my body, would pop up, and I would get closer and closer to my body. And I said, what do you mean closer? He's like, I don't know, I was really far away, and I could hear them talking, I could hear everything they were saying, and every time that thing would shock me, it would, like, I would get like sucked towards my body. And I was like, wow, that's the strangest thing I ever heard. And he's like, yeah, but I don't know why they were doing that. And then all I heard is I heard this noise like beep, 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 and the next thing I know, I was in my body. I was like, wow, that's strange, son. That's really strange. And that was, to me, it was freaking me out when he's telling me the story, because we've never told him anything about what happened to him. The doctors told us that they almost lost him, and they had to use the paddles and shock him back, and they gave him 2 pints of blood because he bled so much. But that's the story of my son, flatlining. And the reason I tell that story is because my son, ever since then, he's, like I said, he's 13 now. He's always coming up to me and telling me things that he sees, things that he hears that aren't there. And I have to tell him, because I had the same experience myself as I was a kid, that I got pneumonia when I was a small kid, and I almost died. Well, if you ask my mom says I died. She said I flatlined, and then they brought me back, and I had to end up being in an incubator because I had pneumonia, really bad pneumonia, killed me. And to this day, my family calls me Bubble Boy, because I had to live in what they call incubator or bubble room for 6 months of my life, because what happened to me. And I don't want to say I'm psychic or anything like that, or clairvoyant. I just like to say I call myself sensitive. I see and hear things a lot, and my son is the same way. Although I think when you're younger, you're more sensitive than you are as you get older, because as you get older, you have things you got to worry about: bills, jobs, businesses, house things, car things, and so you're distracted. But I think kids are more sensitive when they have the afterlife, whatever, they die and then they step in the spirit world and they come back. That they're even more sensitive, more powerful than adults. And he's always, when I had my motorcycle on a ride, he would tell me, I wouldn't tell nobody I'd go for a ride. He would tell me things like, I saw you riding today, Dad. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, I was at school, and then I could tell you were getting on your motorcycle and you went for a ride. And I was like, yeah, where did I go riding? And he would tell me where I went riding. And I was like, wow, because I never tell anybody I'm taking I just get on my bike and go. My wife wouldn't even know. And unless she tried to call me, then I'd tell her I'm out riding. So there'd be days like he would come up to me when I take him to this bus stop, and he would say, oh, hey, Dad, you promised me one thing, don't ride the bike today, okay? And I'd be like, why? And he'd be like, just don't do it today, Dad, it's not going to be safe. And at first, I didn't listen to him at all until one guy almost damn near took me out with his truck. And my son, later in the day, told me, you didn't listen to me, did you? You almost got killed today, huh? And I was like, well, that's tripping me out, man. How did you know that? Because I saw you out riding. And he would do that a lot to me. So I started listening to him. When he say don't ride, I would get out, I wouldn't take my bike, I wouldn't go for a ride. And because I really do believe, because I experienced this kind of stuff myself, but to have my son experience it and then be so strong about it, I tend to listen to him a lot. So, and he's always coming to me and telling me and saying things to me, and I don't laugh at him or yell at him. Like my mother used to always say, "Stop it, you're gonna get the demons in you." And my mom never wanted to hear me when I would tell her stuff like that. But I really do believe that when you somehow have that near-death experience or flatline or die, you step into the spirit world, and when you come back into the real world to life, your soul is still tapped into that back door type of thing, for lack of better words. But yeah, to this day he still tells me a lot of weird, crazy things and stuff. His mother doesn't like to hear, but he tells her, but she doesn't listen, so he tells me more. And he's like, yeah, I don't like to tell Mama because she tells me to stop it. She doesn't want to hear those crazy things. But yeah, that's story time, and let me know below what you think. If you have any stories like that, let me know, or any experiences like that. Give a quick update. People have been asking me about that dog Beggar. If you follow me on my channel and you know Beggar. No, I have not seen Beggar. I haven't seen him in a long time. My wife has seen him once about 2 weeks ago, but other than that, no, we haven't seen him. He's not around. Our house is still up for sale. I'm still getting people calling me or emailing me asking if we could rent to own. No, we're not renting to own. Also, moving to Florida if we sell our house. No, that's off the record. We're not going to do that. My wife, after seeing the Hurricane Matthew, decided, nope, I don't want to go back to Florida. So I don't know where we're going to move, somewhere here in Tucson maybe. But yeah, Florida's off the map because my wife and kids saw that and they freaked out, and they're like, no, we don't want to live where they have storms, hurricanes like that. Anyways, that's my video for today. Story time. Thanks for taking the time to watch my videos. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Don't cost anything. It's free. And I'm going. Get going.